Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this episode of Let's Humanize the Workplace. And today will be an interesting conversation, but let me first introduce myself and then my guest. So hi, my name is Vivian Acquah and I'm a certified inclusion strategist, helping companies breaking down the barriers that can amplify or that can worsen high performing teams, right? And also inclusion. But this lady has been on my wish list for a very long time. I met her last year during an event, ESDP. I want to say thank you to ESDP also for connecting the dots and connecting us together, because the first time that I met Fresh Table, it was at an OMEC event. So definitely, Kimo, also thank you for doing that, for hosting that. But then I never knew that this amazing woman was behind the brand. I always knew that the food was fresh, the food was good. And here we are at an event at Heineken in November. And this is the first time that I saw this woman. And she was talking about food. And you know me, I always add food in the mix when it comes to inclusion. So I think I have my food friend in business and also as a friend in life. And I just want to introduce Yasmina. So let me find a Yasmina Khababi is the founder of Fresh Table, and there are no words that can do justice for what this woman does, because not only is she supporting those who are in the Netherlands, maybe with a status, but their status are still depending or impending on getting citizenship or something else, right? So she believes in finding a unique way to use their talents, whether it's bookkeeping, whether it's cooking, whether it's something else. And that's what she founded in Fresh Table. So Fresh Table is about exploring the transformative power of food, where you can amplify connection, where you can amplify inclusion and definitely high performance. And just before our conversation or this live stream, we were just talking about so many other things. And I was just looking at, I don't have any pictures of Jasmina's food. Luckily, she has Instagram. So go to her website or go to her Instagram and I'll show some of the snippets. So this is what she believes in. The first time that she was doing a presentation, she was talking about it's so retro to still use, let's say, the buns with cheese and the buns with ham or whatever flavor you have in your buns. So look how colorful this food is. And not only colorful, but it's also made with a lot of love. Yes, there are flowers, edible flowers on it as well, and so much richness in cultures. And then you have this image. The person who knows me very well, there are two items on it that are my favorite: chicken, definitely barbecue chicken, and plantains. You can never go wrong with plantains. That's my favorite. So when I see this, I connected with Africa, I connected with Ghana, I connected with my roots. And on the other hand, you have her roots, Moroccan chicken, where I, I mean, these pictures don't do justice to the taste. All I can say is that if you want to do more when it comes to food explosion, combine it with inclusion, create a good time, and go beyond, those buns or bread or sandwiches, because sandwiches are done. Sandwiches should not be shared during a lunchtime or during a meeting or during something special. Give people an experience. So, with no further ado, Jasmina, welcome to Let's Humanize the Workplace.
Wow, what an introduction. Can I save this for my voicemail?
No.
I don't know if I could ever introduce myself here. I'll pay you, of course, because I believe in paid work. But this was the best introduction that I could have ever imagined. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Yasmina. You're
It's an
welcome.
honor to be here, and thank you for sharing your platform with me and sharing the love that we have for food. And we both, accelerate that in a different way, but in the most beautiful way, it's also coming together. So, and I also remember the same exact event at ESDP. And if I remember correctly, you were going first, and then you had this analogy about the carrot cake. And I was like,
Ooh.
She speaks my language. Wait, what? Like, what's happening? And not in the sense of like, did she take my notes? I was just like, this is amazing. This woman, like the way that she is able to translate this message and really convey it in, I always say, like, delivering these complex issues in bite-sized ways. And that's exactly what she did there. And to finally see that on stage from somebody else in a completely different way was like, that made my day. I had an eye infection that day, so I couldn't really see. So the whole time on stage. But I saw that, and that really made my day. I was like, at least I left my house for a good reason.
I mean, on that event, there were so many. You made cake, and it was cake with orange drizzle. There was something infused in that cake.
Cake. Yeah.
And I was
it's a
just
traditional
like,
recipe.
Since there were many people, but apparently people weren't exploring their way in. And I was just like, well, I'm gonna ask if I can take some home. And at home, they loved it. They loved it. They always like it when I bring food to home.
These
So they loved it.
Best juries, because they're always going to be honest. If it tastes good, if you look bad, anything. If you want an honest opinion,
definitely.
ask the children.
Definitely. So going back to the main theme of this platform, why do we need to humanize the workplace?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like there's so many reasons to keeping humans centralized in what we do as an organization, especially in a time when we have more digitalization, the use of AI. We all do it. Sometimes we can really detect that on a LinkedIn post, but also in the most easiest ways of just writing an email. And sometimes we saw that already. So now we have AI. 2-3 years ago, we had COVID, where people were only behind their laptops and we're already missing that human connection. I feel like when we talk about humanizing the workplace, it's really important to realize that we're dealing with humans, and that should be the only label that we place on people, is that people equal humans. There is nothing else in that. And I think for your domain as well, but especially in with my coworkers, a lot of them have a little bit of an in Dutch, they say that it's like some luggage, but I don't want to call it a way. It's like an extra pot of talent that they deliver with them. So either they have a refugee background or anything. And especially when we look at politics, where that be in the Netherlands or as we see in the US, we constantly deteriorate people just based on the labels that we put on them. Either they're women, they're Black, they're Muslim, they're refugees, they're asylum seekers, they're anything. They're even luck seekers, as we call them right now. I'm not going to say we, but society. And I feel like, when I started Fresh Table, the one thing that I wanted to do is step away from the labels. And that's also reflective. So on the team, we predominantly focus on all the talents that we bring and on the similarities instead of the differences. But also when it comes down to the menu, so we represent more than 21 world cuisines, and we look at what can all like be fluent together. So everything on the menu is 100% halal. But most people don't know is that the whole basis of the menu is completely vegan and vegetarian proof, and then people pay extra to add anything with meat or fish, for example, to reset the standard and not make labels like halal or vegan or being an asylum seeker or somebody with a refugee background or migration background that prominent, because it shouldn't matter. It's part of your identity, but it's not the main focus of who you are. You have way more to offer. So yeah, when thinking about humanizing the workplace, that's really what I am headed to in my thoughts.
Yeah. And while you were talking about, adding the extra options in like meat or halal or making it vegan or vegetarian, I mean, I'm biased when it comes to your food, and I've been to different events when I've tasted your food. And for me personally, I'm a meat lover. I love chicken, barbecued chicken. It has to be like, the Caribbean style or the African style. So if you invite me, know that your chicken has to be spiced. If it's only spiced with salt and pepper, no.
I don't call that spices. That's the bare minimum.
It needs to be spiced. So anyway, I have tasted different things, and to be honest, those occasions where there wasn't any meat, I didn't miss them because you replaced them with so many flavors, and you replace it maybe with falafel or something else that it wasn't even missed, right? Sometimes in the past, when I look at the way we looked upon those who were vegan or those who were doing vegetarian. We thought that the palate was dull, but now you can play around with so many colors, with so many
Yeah.
spices, and so many other things, right? And you were talking about Fresh Table. You were giving also some elements away about Fresh Table or the unique value of Fresh Table. Can you share more about who or what inspired you to start Fresh Table?
Yeah,
And what's
definitely.
behind the name?
Yeah, a lot. Firstly, let me get into back to what you just said, because thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much for really highlighting the fact that the flavor is more important than the label. And it's also part of celebrating the cultures that we have. I think I wouldn't want to get too deep into it, but I believe that's my personal belief. So it's not necessarily just the whole companies, but when it comes to vegan food, we often westernize that experience of having experts that can
Mm.
talk about what veganism is. And then we diminish that towards having white rice with avocado with no flavors, and then having chickpeas. And then if you want to be a little bit extravagant, you add some salt and pepper, but don't go overboard. And that's it. And then we discovered tofu, yeah. Then we discovered tofu and really abused that to the maximum. So when it comes to that part, I think really actually embracing all the cultures and the globalization that we have in the world. I don't want to just focus on a part of diversity and inclusivity. I think it's just having all the flavors of the world and really embracing that, but also honoring the authenticity of the cuisine. So we really believe that that's important. We don't have anybody working with us in the kitchen unless either they come from the country that they represent in the food, or they've been there and like they are taught by one of the chefs locally. And we always
Mm-hmm.
put that on our website as well, just to pay respect to where the recipes are actually from. But vegan food, if we keep naming it that, then we're always going to think of the bland food. I think sometimes water even tastes better to the experience of what people have in their mind. But if you're vegan, you can still
Yeah.
have most of the herbs and spices. You're not allergic to that. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for highlighting
Yeah.
that. But I think it's really important to also emphasize the importance of why inclusivity in that sense really matters. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but going back to your question of what really inspired Fresh Table and also where the name comes from. Well, I started 5 years ago, 1 week before COVID hit, as a social entrepreneur in the food sector. It's the best thing that you can do at that time. Uh, I sound very sarcastic, but looking back at it,
Mm-hmm.
it really was the best decision that I could ever make. Mainly because it's a little side quest, but I completely bootstrapped it, no subsidies, no loans. And then now we're headed towards 5 years of an anniversary in October. And I couldn't be happier to really have something that already exists. We're not dependent on any organization. We're not dependent on external finances. We're just a commercial business that also does good. So that was really important for me. And the reason why it started is twofold, or maybe even tenfold. There's so many reasons that all came together. But I'll start with the beginning. I used to do a lot of volunteer work when I grew up. I grew up in a home where it was more than normal that when the table was full, you just grab an extra chair for somebody who was waiting outside. There was
Mm-hmm.
constantly people in our homes that we didn't know the day before, and they were always eating with us, because I think even if it goes for any culture, but specifically in the Moroccan culture that I can speak for, the door was always open and food was always a connector. It was very simple. I have three sisters, and whenever somebody was arguing, it was all nice and well. But when my mom put the dinner on the table, you're going to sit down and you're going to talk together, because she didn't like put all the hours of work in there just for you to sit there. So that connection part always stood back to me. I had a passion for food. Eating, cooking, anything of that. So that always stuck with me as well. I've been active in the whole restaurant scene since I was 15. So I did a lot of experience work as a sushi chef. Worked in different domains, also just to pay for college. So I'm not gonna lie, with my ambition to become the next Gordon Ramsay, I just wanted to pay for my tuition fees. So I did any job that I could do. So that was one part of it. So that's a food section. Then when it came to the impact part, I was already really aware of wanting to leave something behind on this planet. So that's always been a personal mission. I really believe that any person that you meet or any place that you visit should be left a little bit better after you visited them. And I think that is the legacy that we can all leave behind, regardless of what you do in life. Doesn't matter what you do. Are you in software? Are you staying at home? Are you stay-at-home dad or mom? It doesn't matter. Leave something behind that actually adds value. And that can be anything.
Yes.
That can go from as simple as a smile as to your thought process, way of thinking, or a business or an NGO, anything. So that really got to me like when I was younger. So I did a lot of volunteer work with Amnesty International, the Red Cross. And at some point when there was a larger refugee influx, well, larger in between brackets because it wasn't that large, actually, look at the numbers. I did a lot of volunteer work with asylum seekers and former refugees, and all of them always involved cooking. And me loving food, great, yay. And at some point, I was asking the group, do you like what we're doing? Like, do you like this project? And we're sitting here every weekend. What do you think about it? And they said, yeah, I'm really grateful. And I said, I did not ask you that. I asked, do you like what you're doing? Not if you're grateful. Well, yes, actually, no, because I used to be a bank director in Aleppo, Syria. I used to be an engineer. I used to be this and that. I've been living in the Netherlands for 6 or 7 years, and I want to contribute to society, but I can't because nobody wants to hire me based on my degree. And that really stuck to me because then I thought, so, like the sentence, well, I don't want to create some kind of uproar with what I'm going to say, but I always stand behind what I say, so I'm just going to do it. I always say that the road to hell is always paved with good intentions. So sometimes we have a lot of intentions of wanting to help other people, but what is the helping part? Because I feel like the whole savior syndrome, it doesn't discriminate. It can be anyone. I could also have that same mindset. I had that mindset when I was younger. And I think it happens to a lot of human beings, but the most important thing is to really realize that part, because it's all nice and well when we're cooking and when we're tasting different meals from different cultures. But when it actually comes down to really respecting people and their craft and what they offer, their intellect, and actually putting them at the same table, the same decision-making table, and asking them, do you even like this? And what would you like to do? That's a whole different part, because then you're not the savior anymore and we're on the same part. I'm holding. Tell me.
I wanna pause because there's so much that you are sharing. No. I just want to pause politely, but there's so much that you are sharing that can be valuable for leaders or employees in the workplace. And there are so many things that I can connect to, because when you knock on a Ghanaian's door, there is always food. There is always food. Also, that's one of the reasons why when I connect with people, when we meet offline, I bring them to my aunt's place because I know that the food will be plentiful. It will be plentiful that you will always leave with a doggy bag, or you order more for your family or friends, right? So that's another thing. I was raised in a way that there is always food. And if there wasn't enough food, then we'll have enough at home to make something beautiful for the people that want it. And on the other hand is what I find interesting, and this is a reflection that I'm doing at the moment right now. What I find interesting is that many people have the opportunity of the privilege to travel abroad. And when they travel, they taste the cuisine there oftentimes. I mean, some places they even have Dutch food, but let's broaden their minds and say they are tasting the food, the local food. And if we are able to explore the different foods, whether we like it or not, or just try the different food, how come that it's challenged to connect with somebody who comes from a different country?
That's a question, open-ended question, or to me?
No, it's just an open-ended question to the audience, right? Just an open-ended question, because for me personally, I learned from home that food connects, food unites. And I remember my grandmother in Ghana, every time that she cooked, the whole table was full with so many other people, with neighbors, with other people, that it's about that connection, right? And I see that similar just also happening in my aunt's restaurant as well, and also at home. I mean, I don't do that anymore, but it's also one of the things that I believe when I hosted Cooking Back to Our Roots, that we have so much more in common than we even know, even though our roots come from Africa. Then you have the different spices that we use. But the moment that I saw plantain on your thing, it connects me with home. It connects me with home in so many ways. But then I see the barbecue chicken. It also connects with me where what I like, right? So why not use food as a way to connect and break barriers as well?
Exactly. 100%. I'm just going to say amen to this sermon. I don't know what else to add. 100%.
I know it's just like preaching to the choir with the next question, but I do need to ask this. Like, the main topic is about breaking bread, right? Instead of breaking bad, let's break bread and have that conversation and create that connectivity instead of creating barriers. So what role do you feel like shared meals can play in breaking down barriers or maybe biases and foster inclusion?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So, for example, when we look at Fresh Table, we offer catering services to mostly corporates and governmental institutions. And often they opt for our services instead of another for two different reasons. One, they want to create an impact, so they know that they can do that with us. And secondly, we really cater to all the needs of your organization. Organizations are not flat. We're not just one size fits all. There's different people. So I think if we really want to break the bread together, not the bad, really make sure there's even a safe space created. I think going to an event and seeing that there is a whole menu that actually also took into account your preferences and your dietary needs, whether that comes to anything that's kosher or halal, or maybe you don't eat meat at all, or anything that involves anything else. I think that's really important. Go ahead.
So I just want to pause you there, because while you were talking, I remember one of my clients, I'm not going to name them, where they contracted a few Indian workers, right, in Germany. And they were celebrating Christmas. During that Christmas celebration, there was, a lot of alcohol, predominantly alcohol. There were no halal food. And there was something else also, not having the opportunity to drink mocktails, for instance, right? I now see more companies offering mocktails. So not real cocktails, but fun and tasteful mocktails, cocktails without alcohol. And it took almost 5 years for HR or somebody else to realize, what else do we need to do to liven up Christmas, right? What else do we need to do to make sure that those who have maybe a different religion or believe in different way of eating, how can we include them? And this person had the bravery and said, well, I noticed that you're not offering halal. I noticed that you're not providing any dietary guidelines for me to feel included. So every time when I see this event, I just skip it, because the first time that I went to this event, I could not eat. The only thing that I could drink are soft drinks, and that's it. That's not fun.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I've never heard of a party. I mean, there are some people here in the Netherlands that host parties that don't provide food, but
that should, I don't call that a party. It should be an email. If there's no food, don't invite me. It's an email. Keep it at that.
I can see Beverly Brand saying, amen. Thank you, Beverly, for joining in this conversation.
That should be an email and stay that way. But I 100% agree. That's also what we see with our clients. I think you can really see the extra mile. So if you look at this from an HR perspective, for example, I also used to work in that domain, so I can really sit in the chair as well and understand the perspective of wondering why there's a big part of your employees that are not willing to be part of certain extracurricular events. But if your extracurricular events always involve just having alcohol at the end of the day, and not shaming people that drink, because to each their own, but really be mindful of what you set in place and what kind of safe space do you create as a corporation. And often, more than not, it's a very easy decision. If it's not Fresh Table, there's many other companies that offer that, to just really opt in and choose, okay, what can I do to make this accommodable for any other employee? And I think that is really where it comes to. When I look at our clients, it's all a lot of beautiful people that are mostly in the C-level, or when it comes to the buyer section. And they're always very mindful of, okay, what can we do to really increase the performance of our employees and make them feel more welcomed? And that's where we then step in. So it's a little bit more than just catering, but it's exactly as you said, really making sure that people's needs are accommodated to. And it doesn't only have to evolve around halal. Of course, that's really predominantly what we also offer. But let's say you have a lot of workers that don't drink. That could also be just a personal choice. Why is there nothing that we offer for that part? And I think in the Netherlands, we really are the ambassadors of the what was it, the Vrijdagmiddagborrel? I always forgot
The
because I never
Friday
went.
afternoon drinks.
I never went. I went once, and then I realized, oh,
Yeah,
okay, this is not my thing because I'm not drinking, so the conversation is also not flowing.
exactly.
And then I get constant questions: Why are
Exactly.
you not drinking? What's wrong with you? Are you in an
Yeah.
AA? Who did you have a hit and run? It's not that deep. Just drink. So really, I think what I always tell people when it comes to food and drinks and anything for an event, sometimes it's the last thing that people think of. But believe me and trust me, I'm saying this from experience, and you can probably relate to this. It's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that people are going to complain about after your event if it's bad.
Mm.
First thing they're going to
Mm.
compliment you about when it's good. And this really comes down to your employees as well. They're going to feel so much more welcomed, appreciated, and taken care of and seen. I think the most important things for human beings when they talk about that humanization of the workplace, we also want to be seen as human beings and not just as
Yeah.
a number that works in your workforce, but knowing that even if there's only one Indian person, for example, that has a vegetarian diet, that he has been
Mm-hmm.
taken care of, that means
Yeah.
to see your people. And I think that's the essence of it all. We can talk in all terms and whatever I can do with food, but I think it's all about seeing each other as human beings and really having those complex problems down to bite-sized solutions,
Yeah.
to not make a
I
fuss about
love
everything that's going on.
I love how our mission is in a way connected, right? Because when I talk about inclusion, it's about creating bite-sized solutions so that people can digest or can let the thing
Yeah.
marinate. Because diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a very complex topic. For me, it's not, but for other people, it can be complex. How about creating, baby steps or baby food, or make it as simple, and then later you add different spices to the palette, or you add different
100%.
foods to the palette, right? So that you can customize it along the way. And I like that you say that this, what you're doing with Fresh Table, it's about creating a social impact in a sustainable way. Not only do you look into sustainability from a food perspective, you also look into the people perspective as well, not only from internal but also external, as in your clients, and what is the outcome that they want to bring, right? Because it's more than food. Everybody can order
100%.
food.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody
That's
can
also
order
what we
food.
always say. So we say to our clients, you are the hero on this mission. We're just here to amplify
Mm,
your mission and help you
yeah.
build that bridge. Don't see Fresh
Mm-hmm.
Table or our team as the ones that are doing the work for you. We're just helping you facilitate to make the connection, but you're the one that's doing good here because it's an easy
Yeah.
choice to choose between a cheaper caterer that does not meet those standard goals and choose a Fresh Table. That's a choice that you
Mm-hmm.
make, facilitate you making that impact. So we always
Mm-hmm.
uh, we always say to our clients, see us as like Batman and Robin, and we're your Robin, just to choose a good card. But it's about you. It's
Yeah.
about you making an impact and also making improvements for your employees or for your clients as a corporate. So
Mm-hmm.
so much more that we can do. And I always want to bring it back down to the first thing that I said. It's that personal mission of wanting to make sure that we leave every person that we meet and every place that we visit just a little bit better behind. And I think that's a common
Mm-hmm.
goal that we should have as a human race and really try
Definitely.
to focus on that good part. There's so much evil that we see already. Understand it, study it, name it, but also move forward. And that's also the reason why I
Mm-hmm.
started being an entrepreneur, especially in the social domain. I hate being frustrated. I can't deal with
Mm.
it, and I hate not taking any action. So at some point, I just realized, okay, you can talk about it all the time you want to do. You can nag about it and tell the whole world why we need to do so much more when it comes to environment, when it comes to inclusivity. But if you can talk about it, you can do something about it, and that's really the mindset that we should shift to. Do something about it, or don't talk about it. Just try to
It,
move on. Let's create something. Let's build something, and we can all do it
it is
together. There's always some space.
it is the same model that ignited my journey as an inclusion strategist. So facing maternal wall bias, and which is really tough, dealing with pregnancy discrimination, dealing with exclusion while you're pregnant. But I am grateful, not grateful for the experience, but I'm grateful for my child. I'm grateful that next week, this time, he will be celebrating his birthday and he's becoming 12. I'm grateful for the experience that my child has brought upon me to ignite what I'm doing for the world. I'm grateful to not hold a grudge of the past, but to use that fuel for better, to use that fuel to support companies from within with inclusion, with effective collaboration. And I always say to people, like, who doesn't want to work effectively together, right? Because not, I hope not, but the majority of the people that I've spoken to comes with good intention. They don't wake up and say, well, today I'm going to be a rude, or I'm going to do my best to make it worse for the other person. Right? Everybody comes with the good intention, but sometimes good intention don't have the right impact. So what do? We are creating connections. We are building relationships and using food on your palate to make that connectivity better. I'm lucky that Yasmina is one of my food sisters, where I can now say to different people, like, you need to talk to her. You need to address her, because I've been accused of, let's say, I've been accused of people who end up after my session feeling hangry because the client didn't order the food. The client didn't order the food, but I always come with a disclaimer, because it's very important when you bring in a trainer, and it's always in my proposal, when you bring in a trainer like myself, and knowing that I talk about food, I always make sure that I add the disclaimer, like, there are options available so that you can give the training a 3D element and boost the high performance, but also boost the inclusion when people can connect it to something that they have eaten, right? So one of the things is the carrot cake, but I hope to add Moroccan chicken to it or something else.
We're here, we're ready. And likewise, because often you have a lot of catering sessions, and then they actually, it's like the content of the event. There's no actual speaker adding to the whole experience that they're trying to challenge there. And then they just drum up an intern, somebody that's sitting in the back. Can you share something about your experience in the workforce? And then you always see that person being ambushed.
That's not the safe way. Yeah.
And being the token person of, okay, I'm the diversity token, I have to talk about this. You think if you can budget a speaker or a caterer, have both of them, because it really amplifies the whole experience. So 100% agree. And also when it comes down to the essence, I've had this from experience. Like I'll share like a quick story. It's actually very funny. So during my volunteer time, there was actually a few very right-wing voters. We knew that it was all in the same area. In the first year, we had a lot of product laying and staff, but no actual orders, because COVID, so the regulations, restaurants are opening and closing. So we thought, what can we do with what we have? And then we started to get a lot of support from outside of the country. So we started the Share a Meal campaign, which means that you can buy one pizza, for example, for yourself and donate one to somebody else. That year, 2020, we started with 300 meals that were donated. Fast forward to this year, 2025, we're headed towards the 17,000 donated meals, not only in the Netherlands, but also we have projects in Lebanon, Colombia. A little bit more about that later, but I'm going to park that right now.
Wow.
The funny part is during one of those share meal sessions, we also, the first one was giving these meal packages during COVID to elderly people that were living isolated due to the regulations. And I remember profoundly that there was one apartment building, this complex, and we knew, because it was a local area, so we knew some people were very profound in being ambassadors of the party that we would vote for. So this household was very right-wing. So they were really proud to say that. And then they started tasting the food. So at first they're really apprehensive of, why are you delivering food? And you're saying this is free, but you're probably going to tax me afterwards. So no, it's just free. It's just young people want to do something good. And then afterwards they said, well, this actually really tastes nice. This is so good. Could you, like, my wife really would love to make this, and since we're sitting at home, could you maybe like email us the recipe? I said, I'd love to. Do you know, like, do you want to guess what country it's from? I said, well, I don't know. Like, I've never tasted songs like maybe like Italian or Spanish. I said, no, it's from Syria. You know, the kind of like the country that you are voting for too. Yeah. So it's, and then in that moment, it wasn't an ego way to really trying to like teach him something. It was just a really beautiful way, because a really beautiful conversation came out of that. And he said, oh, this actually tastes really nice and it's so good. And I said, yeah, the people that come from there are also actually really nice and good. There's good and bad people everywhere. So And I said, actually, half of the volunteers that are distributing these meals here in this elderly center are people that are former refugees from that exact country that you probably have a perspective on. So it actually led to a really beautiful conversation of that person who was already like in the older ages having a bit of a more open mind. I'm not going to say they probably chose for another party to choose on, but I think it really comes down to that. Something as simple as knocking on somebody's door or inviting them to the same table, figuratively or really like in the essence in practice. Having that simple meal together, especially when you place the focus not on the labels of is this vegan, is this halal, is this and that, just having the world cuisines represented and having all these flavors come together, I think that really opens up the conversation more easily. So you can put a right-wing voter in front of a left-wing voter, for example, and have them share the same meal because they're there for the taste, they're there for the similarities and for the love that they have for the food. So yeah, it's a long story, but that's
I like it. I like it, and I also want to connect it to the workplace, right? Because sometimes we do a lot of othering in the workplace, and we assume things of a colleague that we might just not know that that colleague is a caregiver or a caretaker, or that colleague is dealing with other things that is connected to their stress, right? So we fill the gap, but I also see that a lot in my domain when it comes to inclusion, that we are not connecting the way we used to. Also, the device is hindering us from the connecting, right? So whether it's a tablet or the smartphone, we are not connecting in the same way. And what I see is people are craving connection. People are craving in the midst of the AI. AI is not going to solve that connection. AI, when it's used right, it can help, it can support it, but people still crave for the human connection, seeing each other, but also having a way of connecting with the other person whilst you don't know them as well as you do, or 100%. Know that what makes them tick. When I have these different conversations where it's a shared conversation where we could easily pair them with the meals, they often see similarities. Oh, I did not know that about you. No, because you never ask that question. You don't go beyond work. You only stay in your domain and see the colleague as another colleague or as another number. But there's so much more to you, about you, and there's so much more about me that there's more to us than meets the eye, right? And I want you to. This conversation is about, using food as your wing woman or your wing thing to have that conversation, to connect with the other person, because not everybody feels okay with connecting or with networking. Even myself, I have moments where I press the button and say, okay, now I'm networking. But I also have to be honest, I'm skipping a lot of events because I am, looking into my time and my energy, and also looking into
if you knew like upfront that there's going to be good food. It would tell you fresh table was going to be so see, that's what I'm also trying to like figure out. So
I mean, if that was the case, then I would know to choose wisely.
You made a really good point in that, because as human beings, we're all focused on our own struggles often, and it's an active choice to care for somebody else. It doesn't come natural to a lot of people right now in this digital age, but it does come natural to human beings from the essence. So it's something that we always want, that sense of belonging, that sense to feel seen. And I think really coming down to that in the core and having that from another person, like getting that back from another person as well, is also important, because if you, especially I feel like in the domain of inclusivity, there's a lot of givers. But it doesn't you're not only giving your expertise and your knowledge, you're also giving a lot of your energy. And often it's double. I don't have to tell you that because you are more well-versed in that than I am. But from my own experiences, is you have to go through something and then teach somebody else about your negative experience again, and then having backlash on your experience that you're trying to share. So it keeps on going. So I feel like it's more than normal also for a lot of people to then have this fatigue of always being present. That's extra. We still want to have that human connection. So why not, as a whole, and I feel like that's the job of everybody else, and not just of the person that's already taken so many things upon themselves to help better the
Mm-hmm.
world when it comes, for example, to you in this space, I feel like then it's really up to the rest that's also part of the conversation to then facilitate a conversation in a safe space where there's also
Yeah,
food or anything else that really invites people to invest a little bit of extra time that they have left, because all the other time that they already gave to society to really help better the world and their own private life next to that, really also make that even tangible or exciting for them to be part of. Because what you get then is that people are just doing their work and then they opt out and then they zone off and it's just me and my private
exactly.
circle because I need to really decompress from everything from the wall. Make
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
world
And
a little bit nicer for people to go through, especially for the people that I just want to amplify and highlight your role specifically in this, because I know a lot of other, especially when it comes to women and women of color, they're taking this upon themselves. And it's not because you get paid for what you do, whatever. We know damn well that there is no amount of money that would ever really suffice of paying for the lived experiences plus the information and knowledge that you're going to give. And then to also receive backlash of people not understanding. So it's really to have that patience
exactly.
while having suffered through it. So the least that we can do as society, and I count myself through that part as well, is to create a safe space where people are actually willing to have that little bit of extra time that they have, donate that to you as well. So I think that's really just a call of action for me to other people that have been blessed to have you in their network. So it's just me putting that out there.
I just want to share, Beverly, we love you, or at least I love you. I don't know about Jasmina, but we
I
appreciate
don't know you
you
yet.
from I want to highlight. I remember not
Wow.
having lunch in my first week of work because I had to save money for transport, and a fellow colleague of mine always packed an extra sandwich for me. This is inspiring. So thank you also for being part of this conversation, because you never know who you might inspire with this conversation. But also, Yasmina, you mentioned the word safe space a lot. And
Yeah.
I know why you're mentioning it also, because sometimes you are at an event where it's not only about the safety where people feel safe, but also about the physical environment. Sometimes
Mm.
I'm neurodivergent. So being at an event where there is a lot of noise, it's not always healthy. So find ways where you can create smaller gatherings, or even if you have a bigger gathering, find ways where people can restore their energy or be in a quiet room or a silent room or re-energized room. I've seen more and more events taking, care of that.
Mm.
Am I seeing enough? No. It's still, on a small dose, but I hope that you connect with us and ask us to advise you on what can we do to amplify safety. How can we invite those who are neurodivergent or those who we don't see at our events that you would love to see at your event? What is the reason why they are not spending time at your events, right? Because in the past, when I used to work for a company, let's say that the Friday afternoon drinks, for me, I was just like, I just spent the whole week with you, and you want me to do what in my free time? To do what? I know that there is a
Relatable.
value in spending time with your colleagues, but you have to realize I'm in a different phase. My son was a little bit younger than that, and also I was just like, these people are not my family.
But it's also
Sorry, I have
okay
to be
not to be
honest.
part of
They're
things.
not my
Yeah.
family. I want to be able to connect with you, yes, but there is a time and a place to connect. And there's also a time and a place to recharge, unwind.
Mm-hmm. 100%, I agree. And also, I remember the same exact things. I would wait until it was 4:59 and waiting for the last minute. I would just pack my bag and run because if somebody else would see me and say, "You're gonna do drinks with us," and I had to explain again, I'd be like,
Yeah.
"No." And then at some point, my cat died like maybe 12 times. I used that excuse too many times. At some point, I just started being on. I was young. I was like 21. My bad. But at some point, I just started being honest. I said, I don't feel welcome
Yeah.
there, actually, because
Yeah.
it's just I don't feel I feel out of place. It's too
Yeah.
loud. I feel like people are not behaving in a certain
Mm.
way during the office hours. I'm getting to
That
see
part.
another side that
That
is not
part.
really something
Yeah.
that I want to see in
That
professional
part.
setting. And I'm
That
also
part.
aware that if I would be part of this behavior, I'm going to look down upon in a way different way than you guys are high-fiving each other in a Monday morning, everything's forgotten.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes with being a woman and anything else with that.
Yeah.
So I
No,
opted
but
out.
you're adding a valid point of there are so many things that us women we have to consider that, when we stay for the Friday afternoon and it turns Friday night, how are we going to end up home safely, right? And who are we going to end up with, or maybe how? And there are so many things that we need to consider. So if there is a way to have the event during the day that people can drive together or can keep a close eye on each other to keep the environment safe, because sometimes the moment when alcohol comes into play, that's when you see the other side of people. And I've been to many occasions where I look differently at my manager or differently at my colleagues, and it turned out that I left the company because of the indecent behavior. Let me put it that way. Indecent behavior that were not aligned with my values and with my norms. I mean, there's a place and a setting for everything.
Often than not, it's that group specifically that has amnesia on the Monday morning after the weekend. It's only you that remembered. So you're sitting there with the awkward face, like, I know what you did. But I completely understand.
I know what you did.
I see a little trend of that improving a little bit. I see in our corporate clients that there's a decline in choosing for alcohol. So we have 100% like alcohol-free policy because it doesn't also align with the halal values. But we have some friends of mine and colleagues. They're in the drink department. Esma and Senna, they're the owners of Mono Mocktail. So they really made it their mission to make mocktails more than the status quo in the corporate world, and it did it in a beautiful way. And it's not really focused on religion per se. It's more so focused on make that the norm. And if somebody else wants to have alcohol, they are more than welcome to do that themselves. But I feel like as a company, that goes into a whole different direction. But if we go back to the gist of it, it all comes down to taking into account different perspectives of people, and that humanizing the workspace also means understanding that your employees, your colleagues, or your managers are also human beings outside of the workplace. They are not obliged. And I feel like any person that has ever worked in the Dutch corporate scene, I remember that I had a few of my experiences where they always said, I always was really upfront about my situation. So I did my bachelor's and master's at university all in one row, started my business in my second year while studying full time, while working at the same time, while doing volunteer work and starting my business. So I was always really upfront of I am on my time management. I can be really nice and social friendly, but I need to accommodate my schedule to it. So sometimes when I see some kind of like after work drinks, it's not a priority for me. I have other things to do, and that should also be okay. And then I always got back at the beginning of starting somewhere. No, that's completely fine. We just want you to be more like feel welcome. It's all okay. You don't have to be at those extra events. It doesn't really involve anything that when it comes to your work evaluation, for example. But tell me why that every time I had a work evaluation was always brought up. So it was always, we don't see you as often in the after work activities, and we see you as often in this and that. And that's what I really meant with then, if I would, from all the limited time that I have, make the active decision to be part of an after work event, make it inclusive, make it even attractive for me to be at. And it doesn't have to be that it has to be something that you spend a lot of money on, but make it some added value to my life. And not that I feel like I have to be obliged to be there, because I don't do that stuff. I feel life's too short to be somewhere where you're not celebrated, not appreciated. People don't want you there just to be like, oh, I ticked it off. I really don't care that much of people's opinion, but I feel like we should really, when we talk about humanizing the workforce, really care about other people's situations as well. There's a lot of people that work and have their kids at home that are maybe after Friday afternoon, they're just like, I'm just done with it. I just want to go home and celebrate. And that should also be more than okay. This shouldn't be frowned upon anything. But also, as you said, just when we talk about neurodivergent people or anything else for that matter, I think really going back to the whole gist of this beautiful conversation that we're having, humanize people and also ask them, what do you want? Maybe that person that you see as neurodivergent and is never there, maybe if you would ask them or her, ask them for what would you like to do instead of this? What if you were in charge of creating something that would create more team building. Maybe you get a lot of more beautiful ideas that actually create more productivity and a higher rate of people actually showing up. So I think really involving people into the conversations rather than talking about them can really already change so much when it comes to the workforce.
Definitely, definitely. We are at the end of our session, but I need to ask you the following question. I'm very sad. But I love our conversation so far. Food and good connection can never go wrong.
We're never done talking, but people off camera don't know that yet.
I know. What is your wish for 2030 to humanize the workplace and the power of shared meals?
Ooh. I'm going to keep this one short and simple for once. And that's to make the humanization of people and for Fresh Table's aspect, inclusivity and sustainability, make that the norm rather than some special department or special budget.
Yeah.
That should be something when we talk about impact, it should be frowned upon where you're not making an impact. Let's for 2030, let's really put that as a goal that it has to become the new normal way of taking care of things when it comes to the workplace.
Yeah, for the people that are organizing events or setting up special meetings with leaders or doing a leadership of the events, you need to realize that the sandwiches, the simple sandwiches, they are done and over. You need to memorize, you need to mesmerize, you need to explore and see how you can integrate connectivity with food and all these spices. So Yasmina, thank you so much for being part of this crazy and fun conversation. I really loved your insights and also having, a buddy to talk to about food and inclusion. That's really good. And for those of you watching the replay or are connected now, know that Yasmina has a LinkedIn page. You can follow her there, or you can follow also her Instagram page. And if there is a way to integrate Fresh Table into the palette, I mean, this food is something that you need to taste. So that's it.
Can add to it that if you enjoy this conversation, is dynamic, you can also book us together. Make sure that you create a more impact. Then you can get so much more of this.
Exactly. It's a 3D element that you are bringing into the space when you combine the both of us. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody. Bye.